How many trips have you done down to Peru since then?
Oh man, since then, I think I've maybe been back about 4 times, and now I'm going every year. And so Peru's one of my most favorite places on the planet. There's so much to see. It's um, it's just endless megaliths, whether it's the big sites, as you know, in Cusco or Machu Picchu. But then I just love getting up in the highlands around Cusco and seeing and we can talk about this in the show, just the earth shaping, I call it, that I believe was made by ancient lost civilizations who possessed some form of lost ancient technology. So Peru's a wild place. To me, it's kind of the Wild West. It's the place you can go and, like, I went to Chichen Itza around 2020. That was my last trip there, and it was amazing. But you couldn't even get up close to this stuff anymore, and it's way more recent than the megaliths we see in Peru, right? So for context, it's just so amazing that you can go to a place like Peru and get out there. Obviously, you want to be very careful to honor all these ancient sites and not mess with them, but to be able to, lightly put your hands on them and get up close is an experience.
Yeah, I was blown away by Peru and Cusco and just the whole Sacred Valley area. And yeah, it was like, I had high expectations going there, but to actually see it and check the stuff out. And then I was like, I mean, I was a little kid just videoing everything and, putting it all out there and mostly on X. And people were just like, still people just can't get enough of it because it's incredible. It's absolutely mind blowing. And the explanation of hammer and chisel, stone hammer to create these walls. I mean, it's one of the most ridiculous things that exists out
Right?
there in terms of like explanation for what we see. And you can just clearly see that there's some other method. I mean, why has none of that been reproduced in modern times? Why can't we actually do that easily today if that's what they were doing? So, yeah, for me, it remains one of the biggest mysteries out there, and maybe we start
Yeah.
with Peru and with the walls. Um, yeah, I mean, what is your theory on how?
Wow. Well, let me start with a story.
Okay,
So, like I said, I went down to Peru. My first trip was probably around 2017, and I was with a group of about 20, 25 people, and we're seeing all these incredible sites in Cusco, Sacsayhuaman, Machu Picchu, and we were up in the Sacred Valley. And most people go to the Sacred Valleys, to see Machu Picchu, Ollantaytambo, these incredible sites that feature what I would say are all three layers of different construction. And we can get into this legend of the Hanan Pacha in a bit that basically states, there was an ancient civilization built the foundations, a middle civilization built on top of that, and then lastly, you had the Inca building on top of that. So we're seeing all these sites and we're amazed. But then we go way off the beaten path into the Sacred Valley to this cave. And it's known by a couple names, Napa Waka or Napa Iglesia. And you go way off the beaten path. There's no other tour buses out here. And so the buses park and we follow these railroad tracks along this mountainous valley. And then we begin to hike up the side of this steep mountainous hill. And up in the distance, you can see this large cave. And so I'm just intrigued by this, and I'm noticing that there's Inca style construction as we approach this cave way up in the distance. And I'm thinking, why are the Inca building here? And we soon found out. So you get up to this cave after this long, exhaustive hike, and you can see this cave is in the shape of it's almost trapezoidal. This cave appears to have been the ceiling artificially shaped to where it's like an inverted pyramid, or meant to be, and especially from the back when you're looking down. So we get up into this cave, and as you can see, there is this what looks like a console or altar at the front, and it's been precision shaped. It's got these protruding nubs coming out of it. Unfortunately, the top has been blown off, but according to some oral traditions, that was once had a giant puma face on the top. This was likely covered in gold. You can see the precision 90-degree angles. This thing it looks sci-fi, right? It looks futuristic.
Totally.
So we get into this cave. We're blown away seeing these megaliths with the console here in the front. And then as you pan to the right of the cave, you see what they call a portal. Some would say a Stargate. And it's this like 5D layered, 5-layered precision cutout straight into the mountain. And you can see behind me there is a faux door or false door. I took some pictures up close of some of the angles, and it's literally like 5 different layers. And so we're in this cave, and we are just amazed. And we're exploring. And along with our group came this local shaman who was, I think he said he descended from the Inca, and so he knew all the oral traditions. And he was explaining to us how this is one of the holiest, most special sites of the Inca. And in fact, before we got into the cave, he made sure we were all brushed with his incense. He had these brushes, and he says, we don't want in any way offend the spirits. So we're like, cool. So we all go through his cleansing process. We enter the cave and examined it as I shared there. And then he starts explaining to us, why this place was so sacred to the Inca. And he says this was the place for getting the key. And basically he explained how during the solstice times, the winter solstice, the summer solstice, when the light was just right and the sunlight was hitting, the ancients would crouch down back at that console. You can go back to that, Ryan. And they would bend down facing it with their hands on the knobs there and their head placed towards the hole where it's right where it's being blown off. There's a hole. And he said at the right time on this solstice event, the sacred knowledge would basically be passed through your third eye, which would enable you to then, which would enable you to then approach the portal and basically enter, or he might have said travel to different locations. And so we're all amazed by this. The megaliths alone, right? Getting to see them up close is just an incredible experience. And then we're learning this deeper legend. And then he invites us all to sit around in the cave, and he pulls out a drum, and he says, I'm going to basically sing some ancient songs and beat on my drum, and I just want to invite you to meditate. So some people are, sitting in a receiving position. Others are just laying prostrate on the ground. And this shaman is just kind of tapping on his drum and chanting, and everything was peaceful for maybe 5 minutes or so. And, there's a gentle breeze kind of blowing through the cave, and it was just a real surreal experience until all of a sudden we hear this blood-curdling scream. And of course, our eyes come wide open, and there's a guy in our group who is kind of sitting closer to the portal faux door, and this guy is flailing his arms around, yelling, and you can tell he's scared to death. And so several of us approach him, rush to help him. Some people, is he having a heart attack? What's going on? And this guy was, shaking with fear. And so when he started to settle down and, breathe, we're like, what's going on? How can we help you? And he proceeds to tell us, and this is what really, took me down a deeper path of research here. He starts to tell us that when he was meditating, that he saw a puma come through the portal, and he said either enter him or come at him. But either way, it scared him to death. And it was such a crazy experience because I know, having got to know that guy a little bit on this tour, there's no way he would embarrass himself like this, to try to make something up like this. This was a real event to him. And so it took me to this place of, man, there was a reason the Inca were up here. And there is something to these legends and these oral traditions. And there is something to these ancient sites far more than we can conceive, especially when you start to consider the legends of the Inca and the Andean region and the cosmology of the Chicana and how it was a bridge between worlds. And so, again, that was another piece that took me to, man, not only wanting to keep coming to Peru, but go deeper down this megalithic journey where I, in that moment, felt like I encountered this, collision between almost the spirit realm and these ancient megaliths. So